Good evening, everyone. Welcome, and welcome. We are here yet again for another Wise Counsel Wednesday. So, as everybody is, of course, going to be getting logged on, we just want to welcome you. As we're joining, let us go ahead, like and share, tag some of your friends, and let them know that the live has started. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everybody. Hope that everyone has had an amazing Wednesday. And as I will ask you all to share, I'm going to do the same thing. Let's go ahead and reach out to everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I hope that you all are doing wonderfully well. Wonderfully well. All right. So now, as I have done my part, let me come on and jump on here and introduce myself. Good evening, everyone. Welcome on. For those who know me, welcome. For those who don't, you are also welcome. I am Christian McCray Stewart. I am the founding attorney of McCray Stewart and Associates. We are your trusted advocates for justice and peace of mind. And what we do on Wednesday is Wise Counsel Wednesday. We come and we have a topic that we're going to discuss for you all to present your questions live and for us to answer those, to be able to give you guidance for you to navigate whatever legal issue that you may be pursuing. Disclaimer. Answering these questions does not form an attorney-client relationship. We just want to be able to provide you all with some broad guidance so that you're able to know what are the next steps that you're going to take. All right. But of course, our information is available. You can follow us on all our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can go and find us, and we're always putting out information for our past, present, and future clients. Okay. So, with that being said, our topic for today, the different type of powers of attorney and how they operate during and after capacity. This is a great topic, and I'm happy that it's presented and we're able to come and have this discussion around it to answer any questions. We have questions that have already come in, which you are able to do. So with that being said, let me know if there's a specific topic that you're interested in. Share it with us. Send us in the inbox. You can actually comment on the lives or on any of our posts. Present that to us. We'll be sure to note it, and 9 times out of 10, it will become one of the topics that we present on a Wise Counsel Wednesday. Also, you can post whatever questions that you have as we are streaming live. You can send those questions in prior to. We try to provide notice of what the topic is going to be, if we're able to do so. But of course, we're trying to bring you all, our audience, our clients, the community, answers and discuss topics that are of interest to you all. Okay. And we are going to jump right in to our questions now. So it is time for us to go ahead and start the live Q&A. And if you come on and you're watching the replay, type replay, let us know that you came in. And also, with that being said, if you're catching the replay and your question has not been addressed, type it in there. We will come back, we will look at it, and we will get you the answers that you need, right? Because ultimately what it is knowledge is power. And so if we can equip you all with the knowledge you need to navigate these matters, that's what we're here to do. All right. Okay, so with our topic, let us jump in. Let me see. So the first question that we have is, what is a power of attorney and why do I need one? So basically, a power of attorney is when you select an agent. You select someone who's able to basically step into your shoes and perform actions that you would do. They're like your attorney in fact. So you can, and we'll get into this more in depth with the various types. But if I'm unavailable to act or take care of certain business, I can designate somebody who's legally able to act in my behalf as though they were me. And we need it for various reasons. Sometimes we need it simply because we may not be available, right? People have powers of attorneys for people to conduct business on their behalf because they're going to be out of town, whether they're on business or they're vacationing with their family. Other times we have power of attorneys in place because should something happen and we're not in a state of mind to be able to make those decisions, right? We're incapacitated for one reason or another. You can have it in place where somebody's able to make decisions on your behalf. So wonderful question, just the basic, like why do I even need this? And it comes into play a lot. You see it in a realm of real estate, right? People who do a lot of real estate investment and they may be investing in various states. Hey, if you have a POA, that individual could be able to act on your behalf to close on different properties and things of that nature. Good evening, Mrs. McCray Reed. That is my mother. So happy that you're able to join us. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining on. Thank you for your support. Who should consider setting up a power of attorney and when? Okay, and so yes, and we're gonna touch on that, but everyone should consider whether or not you're going to get a power of attorney. When we talk about estate planning and we're talking about your will and what things are going to look like when various occasions or various events occur in life, one thing that we recommend to our clients is to get a power of attorney in place, right? And then it's going to come into, you'll get a better idea of this as we kind of address some of the other questions that have come through. So that's a wonderful question, Emil. Thank you so much for asking that. And it's never too late. You can be considering and doing things to get you a power of attorney in place right now. So with that, the next question that we have that I'm going to address, what are the different types of powers of attorneys, right? Because this is key. Because there may be powers of attorney like, I don't really need that, or yes, this will be beneficial for me. So you have a general power of attorney. And this comes into play when I'm saying like people can transact and do business on your behalf, right? Or you can have a durable power of attorney. Typically, when you hear this is someone who can act on your behalf to do some of the day-to-day tasks, deal with banks and financial transactions, and then also individuals who are able to make healthcare decisions for you. So that's typically what a durable power of attorney is. Basically, it's two-sided, right? Not only are they able to do make the financial decisions or execute documents on your behalf financially, but they're also able to be able to step in and make those healthcare decisions for you also. Okay. Wanted to double check and make sure. And if you are logging on and I missed you, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are thankful that you are able to join us. If you have a question, don't hesitate. As soon as you jump in, go ahead and type it into the chat. Then specifically, medical, or what we refer to as a healthcare power of attorney. It's self-explanatory, right? That's that individual who's making that decision for you, medical wise. Limited or special power of attorneys. This is where you give someone the authority to act on your behalf for a specific reason, a certain circumstance. Like somebody, and I keep using real estate just because it's an easy example to use. Like for instance, say you have a married couple and they're closing on a home. And the wife isn't going to be there because she's off on business, or the husband isn't going to be there because he's out on business. Well, the spouses can give each other a power of attorney. Then that spouse is able to execute the document on their spouse's behalf. Or you have somebody, a trusted agent, if you will, who, you need to go to your bank and get a cashier's check to deal with a certain type of matter. Well, you have that specific power of attorney that's listing out what actions and steps they are allowed to take in this particular instance, right? So you can also limit it. You don't have to have that general power of attorney that we talked about. You can limit what people are able to and what they're not able to do on your behalf. Then we have a springing power of attorney. And kind of like you heard the phrase, people spring into action. Well, that's exactly what this means. You have a power of attorney in place that says, if this happens, then this person now has this authority to do X, Y, and Z. So for instance, if a person is in a coma, they have a springing power of attorney that says, look, if I'm in a coma, then, my best friend or my cousin or my sister or my mom, whoever it may be, the person that they designated is now the person who's able to make decisions as it relates to, continued care and things of that nature when it regards their health. And so when we're talking about these types, you can have one or the other, right? But then you have, for the most part, in situations where there's some aspect of all of these tied into your estate plan. And that's the thing, that you're trying to think ahead and have measures in place so that when different things happen in life that you may not even be able to account for, even think about, you have some things in place for life to continue, whether it's for you personally, your business, your family, all of those different things. What's the difference between a regular power of attorney and a durable power of attorney? And I kind of touched on this a little bit, but basically, so a regular one, like I say, is typically someone is able to transact on your behalf, make decisions on your behalf. It can be specific, and even in that, you can limit it, right? What people may have access to when it comes to financial rise. But when you're dealing with the durable, is typically not only having the authority to do financial and other transactions, but to also an individual who's regarded as being the agent to discuss information and do things related to your health. Yes. So what are the different powers of attorney and how does it work? Yes. And so with most of these, except for the spring and power of attorney, typically, and I know I've seen a question in here about it. Oh, here, and I think this relates to more so to that question. When does a power of attorney take effect? So this is something else that you have control over. The spring and power of attorney, for instance, you can have it where there's a certain circumstance, a certain event that has to take place before that person has authority to act. So let's say, for instance, for one, we mentioned, even when it comes down to your healthcare, right? Something has to happen where you're incapacitated, right? You can't make these decisions for yourself. Then at that point in time, this person is the agent who's able to make those decisions for you. Say for instance, we're talking about people who may be traveling. They need someone to come in and step in and do business for them. Well, you can have some conditions. Hey, if they accept my offer of X amount of dollars, at that point in time, this person is able to go over there and close out on, to close the deal out. And that safeguards you. So that way you don't potentially have somebody who's, they're paying more than what you anticipated or what you negotiated to pay. And so you are able to set parameters with these documents. It's not simply like, oh, I create a power of attorney, I select the agent, and then they're just able to run and do whatever they would like when they like. And so this, I think, is a perfect time for us to pivot into the question we had. Can a power of attorney still operate after someone becomes incapacitated? And that depends on the type of power of attorney that you have, right? Some of them, for one, if we're dealing with the general, right? And it's in there like, look, if this person is incapacitated, then this power of attorney is no longer valid. Now, if you're dealing with your healthcare directive, your durable power of attorney, typically that one is going to say that the reason this person has the authority to act is because you're incapacitated. Now, what happens is typically powers of attorneys are not valid after death, right? You have some exceptions that are in place, which is a benefit, because if you have a situation where, say, a loved one dies and you need to be able to, and typically in those situations, we have it where it's authorized to do like HIPAA releases. So that way that individual will be able to go and get medical records to do the necessary preparation for lawsuits and things of that nature. But that's one that we kind of have more in-depth conversations with potential clients about as something for them to consider when they're doing their whole estate planning. But typically, once you have, unless it's a healthcare, if you're incapacitated, then they're not able to utilize that healthcare, or I'm sorry, they're not able to utilize that power of attorney. Does a power of attorney give someone control over everything I own? Straightforward question is no. It doesn't give them power over everything you own. So as we've been discussing the various types of power of attorneys, and you're able to control what you want to give individuals control over and what you want to limit it to, right? You have a power of attorney and somebody's able to open a new bank account for you, right? But maybe they're not able to access your current bank accounts, right? And so there are various things that you can limit or that you can provide access to, if you will. And so one thing that I think is going to be good, let me actually do this. I want to I wanted to share a couple things that I think will be helpful in with some of the questions that have been asked, to provide a little bit of clarity. Besides, speaking directly about the healthcare. And so I'm just pulling up some things that we know in some of our POAs, right? So for instance, as I mentioned, when you're talking about general, it's allowing them to be able to address general matters, a variety of matters, right? Accessing and managing financial accounts, making financial decisions. This goes back to the buying, the selling, or trading of property and investments. You can give individuals the authority to act on your behalf in that manner. You can also, when it comes down to public benefits, SSI, Medicare, things of that nature, you can have somebody who's an agent who acts on your behalf to pursue those benefits. Managing your business affairs. So, some people, they go into business with one another and they may be in separate states. They could even be in different countries, but a power of attorney could be utilized to assist them with effectuating their business in doing necessary, whether it's contracts and deals, things that are needed to continue to help them to produce and help that business grow. You can have a power of attorney for someone to file your taxes for you. If you have a property, you can have a power of attorney for someone to manage that property for you. See, there's various things that you're able to do with power of attorney. And the thing is you're the person who are basically giving over that authority. You control what power the other individual has to act on your behalf. Is a POA created in one country valid internationally? Now, see, that is a very, very good question. And I would say that it varies. For the most part, what I will say, what makes power of attorneys valid is that they're in writing, they're signed before a notary. If you typically have those things in place, you probably will not encounter an issue. But also realize too that anytime a power of attorney is presented, the person who is presented to, the business or the agency, they can contact that individual to verify that you do have the authority to act on that person's behalf. And what you see now, what is also because remember, and I think that leads to the question, to the statement that I made about you have people who may be working together as business partners, and one is in one country, someone's in another country. And then if you potentially ran into an issue Well, you can get valid power of attorneys done in the States. I mean, we do have ways that people they're doing virtual notaries, right? They can verify your identity and you can execute documents virtually. So there's also an option there if you were to run into an issue based on them saying, hey, well, this power of attorney was created in this country. All right, wonderful questions. These are great questions that have been presented, and that's been presented in the chat as well. Can a power of attorney be limited to certain tasks or time periods? Yes. And I think to a certain extent we have touched on this. But also time periods. You can have power of attorneys, though this power of attorney is only good for a year, right? It's good for 2 years, it's good for 5 years, it's going to expire in 30 days. You only have it for this particular day. You can limit it to fit your particular needs, right? And then when it just comes to like certain tasks, that's kind of what we've been discussing. Whether it's a specific transaction, whether you only want one to deal with your health, or if you want someone to be able to make financial decisions on your behalf to assist you because you're not available or things of that nature, you can have those things in place. Who should I choose to be my agent? Oh, this is a very, very good question. You want someone that you can trust. It's simple as that. You want someone that you can trust. It could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be um, a business partner. It varies. Like no one can tell you, no one, someone can say, well, you can't have this person as your agent. You truly can, but it's truly up to you to decide who that person is going to be. And you just want to make sure that it's someone that you can trust. But understand this as well. Even when I say that, because some people have concern. It's like, look, what if I give this person this power of attorney and they just go and they try to take me for everything that I have? There are safeguards, right? And some of them come into play when it's referred to as self-dealing. So say that, for instance, you give somebody a power of attorney to act on your behalf. They can buy and sell real estate, right? And they go and they transfer the deed to your home to them. Well, when you get into a court, that's going to be seen as self-dealing unless there were prior communications and things that are evident to show that you all had agreed for this transaction to take place. And that was the purpose of them having the POA. Right. So there are safeguards in law because you see it happen, unfortunately, that people may have POAs and they may not necessarily act accordingly, or they may do some things that could be perceived as being solely in their best interest. And the courts are going to look at that as self-dealing, and actions or transactions that they have made, those are ultimately going to be reversed. What happens if the person you named as POA is no longer able or willing to act? Then basically the power of attorney, it's ineffective. Nothing can happen. No one else can step into that place, right? So it's not a thing, if I had a power of attorney and I had, say, my mother acting for me, and my mother's unavailable, she's not willing, she doesn't want to do it. Well, then my sister can just say, oh, well, I'm going to take over her position and I'm going to act on your behalf. No, I would have to actually do another POA and appoint my sister as the agent who could act on my behalf. And so with that, that's a great question, because someone also asked, well, how do I revoke it? Say that I gave somebody power of attorney, but I no longer want them to act on my behalf. Well, you can do a revocation. You can put it in writing, make sure the agent's name is addressed, and basically saying, look, I'm revoking this person's authority to do X, Y, and Z. You provided, you notify the agent, whoever that is, you no longer have this authority. If the power of attorney has been presented to different institutions or agencies, you want to also notify them as well that that POA is basically revoked. And should you still have the original or any copies, you can go ahead and destroy those. Oh, this is a good one. What happens if I don't have a power of attorney and become incapacitated? And sadly enough, this happens more often than you think, which is one reason why we're always trying to educate and encourage individuals to go ahead and look at your estate plans. If you don't have things in place, I mean, even if you do the bare minimum, go ahead and get it done. Because if you're incapacitated and you can't make the decisions, for one, you're going to have medical providers doing the best they can do if there's like an ongoing medical emergency, right? But typically, kind of where you see a lot of friction at is, say, for instance, you have a um, let me use this example. You have a gentleman, right, who's become incapacitated. Well, you have his wife, who legally is probably going to be the one who's going to be making the decision. But you may also have his mother, who is coming in to say, hey, this is my son. He doesn't have these things in place, and wanting to make decisions on their behalf, right? It's just an issue. Legally, you think it's automatically going to go to the spouse, and 9 times out of 10 it will. But if I bring an example, 9 times out of 10, I've either personally experienced it professionally in a professional capacity, or I've heard from colleagues just things that they have encountered or they have experienced as well. Or if you have nothing in place and you're not married, then who is going to be the one who's going to make the decisions? Who can actually get information about you? Um, what are the facilities and hospitals and doctors willing to disclose? And so, because of all the different laws and things that we have in place, some for very good reasons, right? People's hands begin to be tied in what they're able to do and capable of doing. And however, we can eliminate some of these things if we prepare ahead of time and we have somebody who's able to step in when we're incapacitated and make healthcare decisions for us and get all of our information, and to know what medicines we're taking, to know what treatment options are out there, to know what we desire to happen in those specific circumstances, and be able to advocate for us, right? So it eliminates a lot of the unknown and the back and forth. Um, but yeah, so if you don't have it, it's kind of like this here hierarchy, if you will, of who's the person who's able to make the decisions. Who do they need to be? Who's in charge, if you will. All right, we're making it through. I'm looking for some of these questions. We have some duplicate, so I want to make sure that I'm not wasting our time readdressing those. Okay, and we had one specific question that said, basically, what happens to the POA if a person passes away? And I think I addressed that, but just to be clear, um, power of attorneys, they don't remain valid after the death of the principal, which would be, so if I had a POA, I'm the principal, right? I'm the principal who's given an agent the authority to act on my behalf. And so with these power of attorneys, what happened is the power that you're delegating, if you will, it's attached to your life. These are things that if I was able to do them, you're able to do them. So if I'm not here, I'm not able to make these decisions. So that person is not able to make those decisions any longer as well. Can the agent override the decisions of doctors or medical professionals? So where you potentially see this coming into play, when I read these questions, what I see is, say for instance, an individual has stated, look, I do not want to be resuscitated, and you have medical professionals who want to do so. Well, then at that point, yes, the agent can override them. This person has specifically stated they have a DNR in place, and so the doctors are obligated to abide by that DNR, and then the agent is able to advocate in alignment with the person's wishes, as well, for the DNR. So there are situations that they're trying to go against the wishes and desires of the principal, who of course is incapacitated, can't make the decisions, but the agent is aware of it. The agent understands the individual's living will, if you will. They are able to advocate for that individuals, and the doctors and medical professionals should be complying with that. All right, we have answered that question. Okay, so this is a wonderful question that I truly do like. What is the legal obligations of the agent under a POA? So remember, I was saying it doesn't give them authority to just go do whatever they want to, right? You're a millionaire, and now this person has a power of attorney. Like, oh, well, I'm gonna go access all the accounts. I'm gonna just go on shopping sprees. I'm gonna do all these different things. No, the individual has a legal obligation to function and operate at the best interest of the principal, right? So, in alignment with things that you would do with the authority that you have given them, not to act in a way that's going to be in their best interest, the best interest of someone that they know, or anything of that nature. They're acting in what's in the best interest for you, the individual. And this refers to what they call it is like a fiduciary duty, right? You're operating with loyalty, you're operating in good faith towards the best interest of the person that you're representing. And that means, and two, we talked about various POAs, right? Acting within that authority. If you don't have the authority to do it, then you can't do it, right? And if you have clear directions or instructions and you're going to act outside of those for whatever reason, you're going to be in violation of that fiduciary duty. And also, too, this is kind of a side note, right? But just FYI, because I know people want to know this as well. What happens? What happens if somebody doesn't act in my best interest? What happens if a person acts outside of their authority? Well, a couple things. They could be sued, right? They could be sued for damages, and you could be able to recoup whatever your loss or your damages are as a result of their actions. Legal penalties. It could be fine. It could be imprisonment. It depends on the nature of the actions that they take, right? And then, of course, we talked about the POA. Just revoke it and terminate it. If you already showed me that you're not trustworthy and you can't do what I've asked you to do, you're no longer going to have that authority. So you do have some recourse out there. It's not just like, look, once they have a POA, they're just in control and they can do whatever they would like to do. That's not the case. Does a POA need to be notarized or recorded? It does need to be notarized. Because what happens, because see, if it's not notarized, then what can happen? Somebody could draft a document and say, hey, we have Miss Ann in the chat. Miss Ann gave me authority to go and, apply for this credit on her behalf to try to close on this real estate deal, right? But see, the reason they have to be notarized is because the notary is going to notarize your signature. Say, look, this is the person who was before me. They provided me with identification. I know that it was them. And I know that they were making this with sound mind to give this person authority to act on their behalf. Now, typically, you do not have to record the POAs. However, when you have people who are doing, specifically in Texas, doing real estate deals and you have a power of attorney that's allowing you to act, there are situations where you want that power of attorney to be filed with the county clerk, just so everything is clear. So you have some instances, but overall, generally speaking, right? No, your POAs do not need to be filed or recorded with the courts. Okay. So now, if you have logged on, we were discussing just the various types of power of attorneys, how they work when you're, before or after incapacitation. So if you happen to have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and drop those in the chat, because we have gotten through the wonderful questions that people had presented ahead of time. Very great questions. And hopefully, whether you've been on the entire call, or as you're getting ready to think about your estate plan, some of these have answered, some of your questions have been answered in regards to what is a power of attorney, what does it look like, how does this benefit me, what things do I need to consider, not consider, what things do I need to have in place for my particular circumstances or where I am in life, right? One thing that my team and I had discussed is informing parents of your children, as your kids are going off to college. Healthcare power of attorneys. Healthcare power of attorneys. Should something happen, as parents, once our kids turn 18, we don't have that legal authority to go and get information about them. We just don't. And the doctors don't have to disclose that. And in some situations, if you want to be just legally technical about it, they could get in trouble for doing that without permission to do so. So this is one thing to say, hey, have that power of attorney, so that way you'll be able to advocate for your children, get information that's going to assist you should it become a necessity, right? And see, these are things too that we're doing as precautions, prior preparation. It's not to say that anything bad is going to happen. You never know. It could be a good thing. I mean, you could be a situation where you're traveling. You need to go and access someone's account for various reasons, to add money, to do something, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be anything negative attached to it. And I think sometimes that's what I want to make clear to our audience and to people, our clients, that it's not necessarily anything negative or bad. There are definitely a lot of positive things that was going. Look, make sure you have an agent. So that way, when it's time for you to close on some deal that's going to make you millions, you have somebody who's there and ready, and they can go and they can close and sign your name. All right. But I'm not seeing any additional questions pop up in the chat. And that is definitely not a problem. I mean, we are here for you all, right? So as long as we need to be here, we would be here. But I think we've gotten through the questions. So I will say this: if you're not already following us on all our social media platforms, go ahead and follow us. There's a banner going down through the bottom where we are, all our social media platforms. If you have not signed up for our monthly newsletter, get signed up, because we're putting out information, one email a month. We are not going to spam your emails. We are not going to spam your emails, but we send out helpful information, anything that the firm is going to be doing, whether we're going to be doing events, clinics, or whatever in the community. That information will be in those emails as well. You do not want to miss it, because sometimes there may be free clinics going on. And so, hey, tap into it and see what may be available for you, or not only for you, for other people that you may know, right? Sharing is caring. And sometimes there's information we come across that at the time we may not even need it, but there's someone that we know who it could be a benefit to. Also, if you all, and you can scan this QR code right here, if you have a need for a consult for your various legal issues, reach out to us. One thing that I tell everybody, and our clients know it, and they do it oh so well: if you have a legal issue, we don't care what it is, reach out to us. If it's something that we don't necessarily do and we can assist you with, we're going to make sure that we're helping you to navigate it and be in the hands of people who can. Okay. So you reach out to us and just let us know. We are more than happy to come alongside you and help. Talking about upcoming events. So October 24th through the 26th, I will be one of the speakers at the Attract Abundance Conference that has been held by Terry Alford, financial guru. Oh my, she is so awesome. But we're talking about building wealth, generating something for your children's children, right? Doing something new. And it's going to be a wealth of information. It's going to be an amazing time, great networking, all those different things. So scan a QR code, get your ticket. Discount code is Christian10. Use that for your discount. And with that, we have another amazing time together on Wise Counsel Wednesday. I want to wish you all the best. Pray that your evening is wonderful. Until we get ready to meet next time, it is always a pleasure. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to serve you all. We are your trusted advocates for justice and peace of mind. Good night, everybody.